My name is Margaret. I am 68 years old. I live in a quiet town with soft hills, small grocery stores, and neighbors who wave when they walk their dogs. I have lived in the same house for more than 30 years. It is not very big, but it is warm. Every corner of it holds memories. Laughter in the kitchen, Christmas mornings in the living room, tears on the back porch. I have built a life here, slow and simple. My husband passed away 10 years ago. His name was George. He was the kind of man who fixed everything with his hands and made everything feel safe with his silence. We had one son. His name is Daniel. He is now 39. He works in the city and has his own family. I used to think we were close, but life has changed a little, or maybe a lot. Every morning I wake up at 6. I make tea, strong, with no sugar, and sit by the window. I like to watch the birds. They come every morning, like they know I am waiting for them. I listen to the radio, sometimes write in my journal, and water the plants. My days are quiet, but I do not mind. Quiet is not always lonely. Once a week, I drive to the grocery store. I keep a list on the fridge so I do not forget anything. The cashier knows me. Her name is Rosa. She always asks how I am doing. I say, I am doing just fine, thank you. Even when I am not sure if that is true, I go to church on Sundays. I sit in the third pew from the back. I do not sing loudly, but I like the music. I talk to a few people after the service. They ask about Daniel and his wife. I say, they are doing well, even though I have not seen them for months. Daniel married a woman named Claire. She is kind, but distant. She smiles politely, keeps things clean, and likes everything planned. I am not sure she ever felt comfortable around me, but I tried. I gave them space. I did not want to be one of those mothers-in-law who interferes. I wanted to be easy to love. They have 2 children. Emma is 5 and Liam is 3. They are full of energy, always running, laughing, asking questions. I love them more than I ever thought possible. When they visit, not often, but sometimes, I bake cookies, bring out old toys, and let them make a mess. I never mind the mess. The mess feels alive. Last Christmas they came over. I remember it clearly, the smell of cinnamon, the sound of wrapping paper tearing. Emma sat on my lap and asked if Santa was real. Liam fell asleep on the couch with a cookie in his hand. Daniel helped me wash the dishes. Claire sat quietly, looking at her phone. I asked if everything was all right. She smiled and said, "Just tired." But something in her eyes felt different. Now it is November. The leaves are red and gold. The wind has a cold bite to it. I have already begun planning for Christmas. I always do. I keep traditions alive. George loved Christmas. He would decorate the house with too many lights. He always said, "More lights, more joy." I smile when I remember his voice. I bought wrapping paper last week. I found little trucks for Liam and a doll that looks like Emma. I baked cookies and put them in the freezer. I bought a new tablecloth, red and green. I even hung a small wreath on the front door. The house is ready. My heart is ready too. I texted Daniel last night. I asked, "Will you all be coming here for Christmas this year?" I added a smiley face to make it light. He did not answer. Not at first. I waited all day. I checked my phone too many times. When his message came, it was short. Claire wants to stay home this year. We are keeping it small. I hope you understand. I read the message again and again. My fingers felt cold. My heart sank a little, like it had fallen into a deep well. I replied, "Of course. I understand." But the truth is, I did not. Not really. I sat by the window that night. The birds were gone. The sky was quiet. I thought about the cookies in the freezer, the new tablecloth, the gifts already wrapped, and I thought about the words that were not said. Not this year. Not you. Not welcome. I looked around the room. It felt full and empty at the same time. Maybe it was just a small thing, a simple decision, but something felt different. Something felt wrong. I turned off the lights and went to bed, early. But I could not sleep. Something inside me had begun to change. I did not know what it was yet, but I could feel it, and I knew. This Christmas would not be like the ones before. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I sat up in bed and stared at the curtains. They moved gently in the wind coming through the small window I had left open. The air felt cold on my skin, but I did not move. There was a strange feeling in my chest. It was not pain exactly. It was more like something had shifted, something small, like a thread inside me had come loose. I could not explain it. I just knew something felt wrong. I got out of bed, slowly, and wrapped my shawl around my shoulders. I walked to the kitchen. The clock on the wall ticked steadily. Tick, tick, tick. I turned on the kettle and stood there, waiting for the water to boil. I looked at the phone on the counter. There were no new messages. I made my tea and sat by the window as I always did. The sky outside was still dark, but I could see a line of light slowly forming on the horizon. A new day was beginning, but it did not feel new. It felt unfamiliar. I thought about Daniel's message again. Claire wants to stay home this year. We are keeping it small. I hope you understand. The words sounded polite, simple, but they were sharp too, like a knife wrapped in a soft cloth. I tried to believe it was not personal. Maybe Claire really was tired. Maybe they had too much going on. But why now? Why this year? Why not even ask me to join them? I pressed my hands around the warm mug and stared out the window. A bird flew past. Then another. I usually smiled when I saw them, but this time I just watched them go. Later that morning, I took out the cookies from the freezer. I placed them on the counter. I had made them for the children. Chocolate chip, Emma's favorite. I touched the edge of the tin and sighed. I opened the pantry and looked at the new tablecloth I had bought. It still had the price tag on it. I closed the door again. I did not want to throw anything away, but I also did not want to pretend everything was the same, because it was not. Something had changed. I spent the rest of the day cleaning the house. Not because it was dirty, but because I needed to move. I needed to feel busy. I dusted the shelves, swept the floor, even cleaned the small pictures hanging in the hallway. There was one picture that made me stop. It was of Daniel when he was 10. He had lost his front tooth and was holding up a toy truck, smiling proudly. I had taken that photo on Christmas morning. He had been so happy. I touched the frame gently. Where did that little boy go? Now he had his own children. Now he made his own choices. I respected that. I truly did. But I also missed the times when he still needed me. When he would run into my arms after school. When he would ask me to read one more story before bed. I felt a lump form in my throat. I sat down on the edge of the couch and closed my eyes. Was I being too sensitive? Was I making something big out of something small? I opened my eyes and looked around the living room. The walls were filled with memories. George's old armchair. Daniel's school drawings in a small frame. A clock that chimed every hour. A wedding gift from my parents. I was not lonely, I told myself. I had a good life. I had a warm home. I had friends. I had peace. But still, something felt off. It was not just about Christmas. It was the feeling of being left out. Forgotten, maybe. Or gently pushed aside. And that was a hard feeling to sit with. Later that evening, I called my friend Alice. She had been my neighbor for over 20 years before she moved to a smaller apartment across town. We still spoke often. "Hello, Alice," I said softly. "Well, hello there, stranger," she said with a cheerful voice. "How are you?" "I am all right," I said. "I just wanted to hear your voice." Alice laughed. "That sounds serious. What is going on?" I paused. "I am not sure," I said slowly. "Daniel and Claire are not coming for Christmas. Claire wants to stay home. They did not invite me either." There was a moment of silence on the line. "Oh," Alice said. "I am sorry to hear that." "I understand, of course," I said quickly. "They are busy. They have small children. It makes sense. But something feels strange. I do not know how to explain it." Alice sighed. "You are not wrong to feel that way. Sometimes people change, and sometimes they do not notice how much their small choices hurt the ones who love them." Her words stayed with me. After we hung up, I sat alone again. I looked around my clean house. Everything was in its place. But it still felt hollow. The cookies were back in the freezer. The gifts were still wrapped. The tablecloth was still folded. And deep in my heart, I felt a quiet question rise. What if I am no longer welcome? The thought settled in my chest like a stone, and I could not ignore it anymore. I woke up the next morning feeling heavy, like I had not really slept at all. My dreams had been full of strange, blurry pictures. People walking away. A house with no lights on. My reflection in a mirror. But I looked older. More tired. I got out of bed slowly. My knees ached more than usual. As I stood up, I placed one hand on the dresser to steady myself. The winter air had made the wooden floors cold, but I did not put on slippers. I just walked slowly toward the window and looked. Outside, the world was quiet. Snow had begun to fall again during the night. A thin white sheet now covered my front yard. The garden bench, the rose bush, the mailbox. Everything looked still. Peaceful, yes, but also a little too quiet. I pressed my hand gently to the glass and whispered to myself, "What is happening?" It was not just about Christmas anymore. It was about how I felt inside, confused, unsettled, sad. I had never imagined I would feel this way about my own family. Daniel had always been a good son. When he was young, he was kind and curious. He loved to draw, to read, and to ask 100 questions. I had raised him to be thoughtful, to be gentle, to be respectful. And Claire had always been polite to me. We were not close, but I had never expected we would be. She was private, quiet, sometimes distant, but she never said anything unkind, not to my face. So why did her words feel like a slap? We are keeping it small. I repeated the sentence in my mind again and again. It was such a simple sentence, but it had made something inside me crumble, like I was not part of small, like small meant not you. I walked to the kitchen and turned on the kettle. My hands moved, out of habit, tea bag, cup, spoon. But my mind felt cloudy. I kept asking myself the same questions. Did I do something wrong? Did I say something that upset her? Was I too involved in their lives? I thought back over the last year. I had visited them twice. Once for Emma's birthday in March, and once in August, just before school started. I had brought books for the children, helped Claire fold laundry, and even cooked dinner one evening so she could rest. We had laughed a little, talked about the children. Nothing serious, nothing dramatic. So what had changed? I sat at the table and stirred my tea slowly. The spoon clicked gently against the side of the mug. I stared into the brown liquid, hoping it would give me an answer. Nothing. Just silence. Just confusion. Later that day, I decided to go for a walk. I put on my coat, scarf, and gloves. The air outside was sharp and cold. It bit at my cheeks, but I welcomed the sting. It helped me feel awake. The snow crunched under my boots as I walked down the path. I passed a few houses with wreaths on their doors. One had blinking lights. Another had a snowman made of plastic standing in the yard, smiling with a red scarf and a black top hat. Children's laughter echoed from somewhere in the distance. I smiled softly, but it did not reach my eyes. I walked to the park and sat on a wooden bench near the frozen pond. Ducks stood quietly on the ice. A man walked past with his dog, nodding politely. I nodded back. For a moment, I closed my eyes. Remembered last Christmas. The smell of cinnamon in the kitchen. Emma running to open her presents. Claire laughing quietly as Daniel told a silly story from work. I had worn a red sweater with tiny bells on the sleeves. It had felt warm and joyful. This year felt cold, different, wrong. I tried to tell myself it was nothing, that families change, that people grow, that sometimes people need space. But another voice inside me whispered something else. It said, "You are no longer needed." I opened my eyes quickly and shook my head. "Stop it," I said out loud. "You are thinking too much." But was I? That was the problem. I did not know what was true anymore. Was this just a small misunderstanding? Or was it something deeper? A choice they had made without telling me? I walked home slowly. The snow began to fall again, soft and silent. Each flake landed gently on my coat, then melted. By the time I reached my door, I felt tired again. I took off my boots, hung my coat, and walked into the living room. I stood in the middle of the room, looking at the quiet house. I did not turn on the television. I did not put on music. I just stood there, listening to the silence. I touched the edge of the table and closed my eyes, and I whispered, "I do not understand." It was the truth, and it hurt. But saying it out loud felt like the first step. The first step toward finding an answer. That night, I could not fall asleep easily. I lay in bed, watching the ceiling, my hands folded gently on my stomach. The room was dark, but the moonlight through the curtains gave everything a soft, pale glow. My mind was not quiet. It kept repeating the same thoughts again and again. Why would Claire say something like that? Why would Daniel allow it? I turned my head to the side, where the photo frame sat on my bedside table. It was a picture of Daniel, taken 3 years ago. He was sitting in the garden, holding little Emma on his lap. His smile looked real, happy, proud. That was the Daniel I knew. That was the son I had raised, and I wanted to believe he was still that person. I wanted to trust him. I sat up slowly and reached for my phone. The screen lit up. It was already after midnight. I stared at his name for a moment, my thumb hovering over it. I wanted to call. I wanted to hear his voice. But I also did not want to make things worse. Would he think I was being dramatic? Would he tell Claire? Would it just create more distance? After a long pause, I put the phone down and took a deep breath. The next morning, I woke early. I had barely slept. My head felt heavy. My eyes burned. I made a cup of tea and took it into the living room, where the small Christmas tree stood in the corner. I had decorated it 2 weeks ago. Just a few ornaments. Nothing fancy, a silver star at the top. Now, looking at it, I felt something shift inside me. This tree was waiting for a Christmas that might not come. The phone rang suddenly, breaking the silence. I jumped slightly and rushed to answer it, hoping it might be Daniel. It was. "Hi, Mum." His voice was warm, but a little too casual. "Hello, Daniel," I said softly. "How are you?" he asked. I paused. How should I answer that? I did not want to lie, but I also did not want to sound bitter. So I said, "I am well. Just a little tired." He sighed lightly. "Yeah, same here." I waited for him to say more. He did not. Finally, I asked, "Daniel, about Christmas." He was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Yes, Claire and I were talking about that. We just thought it might be too much this year, with everything going on. The kids have been getting sick often, and Claire is feeling overwhelmed." I nodded, even though he could not see me. "I understand," I said slowly, but part of me did not. He continued, "We thought it would be easier to keep it simple. Just us and the kids." I tried to keep my voice steady. "So, I am not included in simple?" He hesitated again. I could hear him breathing. "Mum, it is not about you. Please do not take it personally." "But how could I not?" I said quietly. "I have always been there for Christmas." "I know," he said, "and we love that. But maybe just this once, it could be different." I wanted to cry, but I held it in. My fingers gripped the edge of the table. "Daniel," I said gently, "I just want to understand. Did I do something wrong?" He answered quickly, "No, of course not." "Then why do I feel like I am being pushed away?" There was another long pause. "Mum, Claire just needs space. She is under pressure. She wants to focus on the kids and the house. And sometimes when people come over, even family, it adds stress. I closed my eyes. I could hear the words, but they did not feel right. I said softly, "I am not just people, Daniel. I am your mother." He replied, "I know. And you are a wonderful mother. We are just trying something new this year." I looked at the Christmas tree again. Its lights blinked softly, quiet, lonely. I whispered, "I hope you understand how this feels." He said, "I do, and I am sorry." We ended the call soon after. I sat there for a long time, the phone still in my hand. His voice had been calm, kind even, but there had been something missing. Warmth, connection, love. I wanted to trust that he was telling me the truth, that this was just about stress and not something deeper, not rejection, not resentment. But I could not ignore the feeling in my chest, that quiet, aching twist that told me something was not right. Still, I told myself again and again, he is my son. He would not hurt me on purpose. He loves me. I want to trust him. But wanting to trust someone and actually trusting them, those are two very different things, and I was not sure which one I felt anymore. A few days passed after that phone call with Daniel. I tried to stay busy. I baked cookies. I cleaned the house. I even took out my knitting needles and started a new scarf. But none of it helped. The silence in the house was louder than ever. Each morning I checked my phone, hoping for a message. A small note. Anything from Daniel. There was nothing. One afternoon I decided to go for a walk. The winter air was cold, but I needed fresh air. I wrapped my scarf tightly around my neck and stepped outside. The neighborhood looked quiet, peaceful. Christmas decorations sparkled in the windows of nearby homes. Children's laughter echoed from a yard down the street. Families were preparing for the holiday, making memories. I felt like I was walking through someone else's life. After about 10 minutes, I passed by the small grocery store near the park. I had no plan to stop, but something told me to go inside. Just for a moment. Maybe to feel less alone. As I entered, the warm smell of coffee and bread wrapped around me. There were not many people, just a few familiar faces. And then I saw her. Her name was Sharon. We had met a few times before at the school when I went to pick up Emma, my granddaughter. Her grandson was in the same class. She was kind, always smiling, always chatting about the little things. I smiled and waved. She looked surprised, then came over quickly. "Oh, hello. I have not seen you in weeks," she said, adjusting the shopping bag on her arm. "I have been staying home mostly," I replied, trying to keep warm. She laughed softly. "Yes, it is freezing out there." There was a short pause. Then she looked at me carefully. Her voice softened. "Are you all right?" The question surprised me. I hesitated, then nodded. "Yes, just a little tired." She tilted her head. "I hope you will still be spending Christmas with your family." I gave her a small smile. "Not this year." Her eyebrows lifted. "Really? But Daniel and Claire always host a big dinner, do they not?" I nodded again, trying to stay calm. "Yes, but this year, they wanted a quiet one." Her expression changed. She looked a little uncomfortable, as if she was deciding whether to speak or stay silent. Then she said slowly, "I hope you do not mind me saying this, but I heard Claire talking at the school the other day." My heart stopped for a moment. Looked at her. "What do you mean?" She hesitated. "It is not my place, really." But she was speaking to another mother. She sounded upset. She said some things I thought were strange. I felt my hands tighten around the handle of my basket. "What kind of things?" Sharon looked around quickly, then leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. She said she was tired of always pretending, that this year she finally had a reason to say no, that some people needed to learn they were not the center of everything. I felt something sharp in my chest. Sharon looked at me gently. I did not want to repeat it, but after seeing you now, I just thought, maybe you should know. I took a deep breath. "Thank you for telling me." She placed a hand on my arm. "You have always seemed like such a kind mother. Some people, they forget how lucky they are." I nodded, my eyes starting to burn. "I should go," I said softly. "Of course. Please take care of yourself," she replied, giving me a sad smile. As I walked home, the cold air felt sharper against my face. I kept hearing her words again and again. She said she was tired of pretending. She finally had a reason to say no. Was this all Claire? Was Daniel just agreeing with her? Was this not about stress or the children? Was it personal? Suddenly, it all felt clearer. Too clear. And painful. I reached home, closed the door, and leaned against it. My heart was heavy. But something inside me had changed. This was not just my imagination. There was a reason I had felt something was wrong. And now, I could hear the warning, loud and clear. That night, I sat by the window with a cup of tea in my hands. Outside, the snow was falling again. Soft, quiet, beautiful. It reminded me of when Daniel was a boy. We used to sit by this same window and watch the snowflakes drift down. He would press his small hands to the glass and say, "Look, Mama, it is like stars falling from the sky." Now, the house was silent, and the stars did not fall for me anymore. I thought about what Sharon had said at the store. Her words kept playing in my mind like an old song on repeat. She finally had a reason to say no. I wanted to forget them. I wanted to believe there was a misunderstanding. So I told myself a new story. Maybe Claire was just tired. Maybe she said those things out of stress, not truth. Maybe someone heard her wrong. Or maybe I was overthinking again. I turned off the lights and went to bed early, but I could not sleep. My eyes stared at the ceiling in the darkness. Every sound felt louder, every thought felt heavier. I tried to ignore the ache in my chest. I tried to believe that everything would be okay. The next morning, I called Daniel again. The phone rang 5 times, then voicemail. I left a short message. "Hi, Daniel. Just checking in. Hope everyone is all right. Let me know if you need anything." I said it gently, warmly, the way a mother always does. He did not call back. 3 days passed, then 4. Still. Silence. I kept myself busy again. I cleaned the windows. I rearranged the bookshelves. I even tried making Claire's favorite apple pie, just for the smell. But everything I did reminded me of them. their laughter. Emma's tiny, hands reaching for whipped cream, the way Daniel used to kiss my cheek after dinner, and now, nothing. I wanted to pretend it was fine. I wanted to believe this was just one quiet holiday, but deep down, I knew it was not. Still, I told no one. I did not call my sister. I did not tell my neighbor. I did not reply to the 2 Christmas invitations I had received from friends. I wanted to wait. Wait for Daniel to call. Wait for Claire to change her mind. Wait for someone to say, "We made a mistake," but the phone stayed silent, and no one knocked at the door. A few days later, I opened the hallway closet to find the box of Christmas decorations. My hands hesitated on the lid, the same box we had opened every year together. I slowly lifted it. Inside were ornaments from long ago. Daniel's first Christmas stocking, Emma's little paper snowflake with glitter, a music box that played Silent Night. I held the music box in my hands, wound it slowly. The soft tune began to play. Tears filled my eyes. I had told myself to ignore the pain, to be strong, to keep smiling. But the music, so gentle, so familiar, broke something inside me. I sat down on the floor, music box in hand, and cried. Not loud, not angry, just quiet tears. Tears for the memories, tears for the silence, tears for a mother who only wanted to be near her family for Christmas. That evening, I did not light the tree. I put the decorations back in the box and closed the lid. If I was not welcome there, then maybe Christmas would stay inside this box too, at least for this year. It was a cold Tuesday morning when I finally saw Daniel again. I had just returned from the post office. I was carrying a small package, a gift I had ordered for Emma weeks ago. A handmade sweater, pink with tiny white flowers. I had almost sent it by mail, but something told me to wait. As I stepped onto my porch, I saw his car parked across the street. My heart skipped a beat. There he was, sitting in the driver's seat, just staring at the house. He did not get out. He did not wave. He just sat there. I stood still for a moment, unsure what to do. Should I go to him? Should I pretend I did not see him? Then, slowly, he stepped out. He was wearing his brown winter coat. His hair was longer than usual. He looked tired, as if he had not been sleeping well. He walked toward me with slow, careful steps. "Daniel," I said softly. He stopped at the bottom of the steps and looked up at me. His eyes, they were not the eyes I remembered. They were distant, guarded, not cold, but not warm either. "Hi, Mom," he said. His voice was quiet but flat. No hug, no smile. I swallowed hard. "Is everything all right?" He nodded once. "I was just in the area. Thought I would check in." My hands were still holding the package for Emma. I almost offered it to him, but something stopped me. There was space between us. Not just the space of the steps, but something deeper. Something invisible but heavy. "I have called," I said gently. "I left messages." "I know," he replied, looking away. The silence stretched between us like a thin sheet of ice. I wanted to break it. I wanted to say, "Why have you not called back? Why am I not welcome? What happened? But I could not find the words. So I asked instead, "How is Emma?" "She is fine. She has a cold, but she is doing better." "I miss her," I said. My voice trembled just a little. He nodded again, but did not look up. "Claire," I began, choosing each word carefully. Is she all right?" Daniel pressed his lips together. Then he looked at me, and I will never forget the way he looked at me. It was not angry. It was not kind. It was a look that said, "I am stuck in the middle. I do not know what to say. I do not want to hurt anyone, but I cannot protect everyone either. I think maybe it is just better to give her space right now," he said. I felt something drop in my stomach, like a stone. "But I have always given her space," I said, more to myself than to him. He shifted on his feet. "It is not you, Mom. Things have just been tense lately. She has been feeling overwhelmed." I nodded slowly, trying to understand, trying to be reasonable, trying not to cry. "I only wanted to spend Christmas with my family," I whispered. He looked down at the ground. "I know." There was a long pause. The wind picked up. My hands were cold, but I did not move. "Are you staying long?" I asked. He shook his head. "No, I just wanted to stop by." Then he turned and walked back to his car. I watched him go. Watched him open the door. Watched him sit down behind the wheel and close it. But before he drove away, he looked at me again through the window. And again, I saw that look. The look of a man who was lost between two worlds. The world of the woman who raised him, and the world of the woman he now lived with. As his car drove away, I stood there on the porch, holding the package for Emma. I had imagined this meeting so many times. I thought I would hug him. I thought he would tell me everything was a misunderstanding. Instead, all I had was that look, that quiet, distant look that said more than words ever could. The next day, I could not focus on anything. I kept thinking about the way Daniel looked at me, the way he said, "Maybe it is just better to give her space." That phrase echoed in my mind all morning while I folded laundry, while I sipped my tea, while I stared at the cold winter sky outside my kitchen window. I could not keep pretending that everything was fine. I had to know the truth. So, after thinking about it all afternoon, I called him. The phone rang 4 times before he answered. "Hello?" His voice was quiet, cautious. "Hi, Daniel." "It is me," I said softly. A pause. "Hi, Mom." I took a deep breath. "Do you have a moment? I would really like to talk. Please." He was silent for a second. Then he said, "Sure." I sat down at the kitchen table, my fingers curled around the edge of the wood. "I want to ask you something," I began. My voice was shaking, but I tried to speak clearly. "Please tell me the truth. I need to understand." "All right," he said carefully. "Did Claire really say I was not welcome this Christmas?" There was another pause. I could almost hear him thinking on the other end of the line. Then finally, he said, "Yes." One word. So soft. So heavy. I felt my chest tighten. "But why?" I asked. "I have always tried to be kind to her. I have stayed out of your way. I have supported your choices. What did I do to make her feel that I should stay away from my own family on Christmas? Daniel sighed. It is not one thing, Mom. It is a lot of little things that added up. I was quiet. I needed him to continue. I needed to hear it all, even if it hurt. She says she always feels like you are watching her, judging her, that when she talks you look at her like she is doing something wrong. I blinked. I never meant to, Daniel. I never wanted her to feel that way. I was only trying to get to know her. I was trying to understand her. I know, he said, but I think she interprets things differently. She is sensitive. You know that. Yes, I did know that. But I was also human. I had feelings too. And what about Emma? I whispered. Does she know I was not invited? She is too young to understand, he said. I felt a tear slip down my cheek. I wiped it away slowly. I bought her a gift, a sweater. I was going to give it to her on Christmas morning. I can still bring it to her, he offered gently. No, I said. No, it is not about the sweater. It is about everything. Daniel did not answer. So I said, I feel like I am losing you. Both of you. Like I am slowly being erased. You are not, he said quickly. Mom, I promise. You are not. But it felt like I was. I could feel it in the way Claire never called me. In the way Emma's drawings stopped coming. In the way Daniel stood outside my house and could not meet my eyes. I wish we could all talk together, I said. Not to fight, not to blame, just to understand each other. Is that too much to ask? I do not know, he replied. Maybe after the holidays. Right now, things are tense. Tense. That word again. It felt like a wall between us. One I could not climb over, no matter how hard I tried. I miss the old days, I whispered. I do too, he said quietly. And for a moment I could hear the boy he used to be. The boy who used to run into the kitchen and hug me after school. The boy who used to cry when I tucked him in late at night and promised I would always be there. Do you remember, I said, when you were 9 and you wrote me that letter? You said I was your favorite person in the whole world. You said you would take care of me when I got old. He gave a short, soft laugh. Yes, I remember. Sometimes I still have that letter, I said. Sometimes I read it when I feel lonely. I did not say it to make him feel guilty. I said it because it was the truth. I am sorry, Mom, he said. I do not know what to do right now. I feel pulled in 2 directions. I understand, I said. And I truly meant it. I will give you space, I added. But please, do not shut me out completely. I will not, he promised. We ended the call a few minutes later. I sat there in silence for a long time. I did not feel better, but I did feel clearer. Yes, Claire had said those words. Yes, I was not welcome. And yes, Daniel was stuck in the middle. I stood up from the kitchen table, walked to my closet, and took the sweater I had bought for Emma out of the box. It was soft, pink, covered in tiny white flowers. I folded it gently and placed it back in the box. Would hold on to it for now. Maybe one day she would ask for it. Maybe one day things would be different. But for now, I had my answer. and it hurt. But the truth always does. The days after that conversation were a blur. I could not stop thinking about what Daniel had said, about the things Claire had apparently felt. I replayed the conversation over and over in my mind, as if hoping something would change, or that I would understand it differently if I just thought about it enough. But the more I thought, the more confused I became. I had always tried to be a good mother. I had tried to be understanding, patient, and kind. I had tried to accept the woman my son married, even when it was hard. Even when she kept her distance. Even when I felt like an outsider in my own family. But now, the truth was clear. I was unwanted. Not just by Claire, but in a way, by the life I had once imagined with them. And the more I thought about it, the heavier my heart felt. At night, I could not sleep. My mind raced with all the things I could have done differently, all the things I should have said, should have done. What if I had been more patient? What if I had tried harder to understand Claire's perspective? What if I had ignored the things that bothered me and simply accepted things as they were? But I could not stop thinking about the little moments, the little things that hurt me, the moments when I felt invisible, the moments when I tried so hard to be part of their lives, and yet it seemed like they were always pulling away. I would lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the sounds of the house around me, the soft hum of the refrigerator, the creaking of the wooden floors, the wind blowing through the trees outside my window. The silence was overwhelming. I missed the sound of their voices, the laughter, the warmth of family togetherness. But now, it felt like that warmth was gone. It was replaced with a coldness I could not ignore. I tried to focus on other things. I threw myself into work. I spent time with friends. I went for walks, in the park. But nothing seemed to take the ache away. I could not stop thinking about them. I could not stop thinking about how everything had changed. About how my son, my baby boy, was caught between his loyalty to his wife and his love for his mother. About how the family I had once known seemed to be slipping further and further from my grasp. I knew I had to move on. I had to accept what was happening. But it was hard. So hard. And no matter how hard I tried, I could not stop thinking about them. I even thought about calling him again, asking him if there was any way we could fix this. But I stopped myself. What could I say that I had not already said? What could I ask that he had not already answered? I wanted to believe that there was still hope, that somehow things could go back to the way they were. But deep down, I knew that was not true. The truth had already been spoken. I was not welcome, and no amount of wishing or hoping could change that. So I tried to focus on something else. I tried to make peace with the idea of being alone. But the silence was deafening. I would get up every morning, go through the motions of my day, and try to hold my head high. I told myself I would be okay, that I was strong enough to get through this. But when night came, and the house grew quiet again, I could not help but wonder if I would ever be the same. Would I ever feel whole again? Would I ever feel like I belonged? It was hard to answer those questions, harder than anything I had ever faced. But I knew one thing for sure. The pain would stay with me for a long time. I just did not know how long I could bear it. The pain was not loud. It did not scream in my face or demand attention. but it was there. A quiet, constant ache that followed me from the moment I woke up to the moment I closed my eyes at night. It was the kind of pain that gnawed at the edges of your heart, soft but steady, like a drip of water slowly eroding stone. It wasn't the kind of pain you could easily put into words. It wasn't a wound you could see or touch. It was the kind of pain that settled deep inside you, where no one could see it, where it felt like a part of you was missing. I thought about Daniel, about all the years I had spent raising him. The late-night feedings, the school projects, the hours of listening to his worries, his joys, his dreams. I had been there for him in every way a mother could be. I had loved him unconditionally, always hoping that one day he would look back at me with the same love. But now, he was distant. He wasn't the boy who used to run into my arms when he came home from school. He wasn't the man who called me for advice, who asked about my day. He was somewhere else, torn between the woman he had chosen and the woman who had raised him. And it hurt. It hurt in a way I did not know how to explain. There were moments when I felt like a stranger in my own home. Moments when I would stand in the kitchen, stirring a pot of soup, and I would suddenly feel this weight on my chest, the weight of loss, the weight of something that had once been there and now was slipping away. I tried to shake it off. I told myself to focus on other things. There were errands to run, bills to pay, 1,000 little tasks that needed to be done. But it was hard to ignore the emptiness that seemed to have settled in. There were nights when I would sit in the living room, the house quiet around me, and I would think about what could have been. What could have been if things had turned out differently. If Claire had accepted me. If Daniel had chosen to stand by me, as he always had before. But wishing for what could have been only brought more pain. It didn't change the reality I was facing. The hardest part was the silence. The days passed, and the phone did not ring. I did not get the calls I once looked forward to, the ones that used to brighten my day, the ones that made me feel needed, loved, important. And so, I sat in the silence. The days became longer. I felt more isolated with each passing moment, as though the walls of my home were closing in around me. The laughter that once filled the space now felt like a distant memory, something I could not reach. I knew I could not stay in this place forever. I could not keep living in this quiet pain. But where was I supposed to go? How was I supposed to move on when it felt like every corner of my life was haunted by what I had lost? I tried to smile. I tried to be the strong person everyone expected me to be. I put on a mask and told people I was fine, but inside I was falling apart. There were days when I could not even find the energy to get out of bed. The weight of the pain felt too heavy. But I had to keep going. I had to keep moving, even if it was just one small step at a time. It was the kind of pain that was hard to share. No one could understand. No one could feel the ache in my chest, the emptiness that followed me everywhere I went. I had to carry it alone. I often found myself sitting on the porch, watching the sunset, its colors fading into the darkness. It was a beautiful sight, but it only reminded me of how much I had lost. As the days wore on, I realized something. The pain was not going to go away on its own. I could not wait for the hurt to magically disappear. I had to make a choice. I had to choose to let go of the things that were holding me back, even if it meant facing the hurt head on. But for now, All I could do was sit with the pain. Let it wash over me. Try to understand it, even though it made no sense. And somehow, I knew that eventually I would find a way to move forward. I just did not know how long it would take. The silence had become unbearable. It had been days since I last spoke to Daniel, and the weight of unspoken words hung between us like a thick fog. I had tried to reach out, but each time I did, I was met with indifference or avoidance. I could no longer pretend that everything was fine. I needed answers. I needed clarity. One morning, I decided that I could not live like this any longer. I could not spend another day wondering what had happened, why things had changed, or what had gone wrong. I had to ask him. I had to get the truth. I stood in front of the mirror, taking a deep breath. My hands trembled slightly, but I told myself to be strong. I had spent too many years hiding behind my own fears, too many years pretending that everything was okay. Not anymore. I was going to face whatever was waiting for me, whether I liked it or not. I grabbed my phone and dialed his number, my heart pounding in my chest. The phone rang several times before he picked up. Hello? His voice was flat, distant, like it didn't even matter to him that I was calling. Daniel, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. I need to talk to you. It's important. There was a long pause on the other end of the line. I could hear him breathing, but he didn't respond right away. I don't know what's going on, but we need to talk. I can't keep going like this, pretending everything is fine, I said, my voice cracking slightly despite my efforts to stay composed. I could feel the tension building up in my chest, like a pressure that was slowly suffocating me. I had waited too long to say these words. I had swallowed too many emotions in silence. Now, I was finally speaking them, even if it was difficult. He sighed, and I could hear the frustration in his voice. Mom, I don't have time for this right now. My heart sank. That was not the answer I was hoping for. That was not the response I had imagined when I had decided to call him. I swallowed hard, trying to push back the tears that were threatening to rise. You don't have time for your own mother. You don't have time to explain why you've been distant? Why you've been shutting me out? I asked, my voice shaking with emotion. There was another long pause. I could hear him shifting in his seat, but he still did not respond. I could feel the space between us growing wider with every passing second. He was not going to give me the answers I needed. Not today. Maybe not ever. I need to know, Daniel. I need to understand why you've changed, I said softly, almost pleading. Please, just tell me. For a moment, I thought he might finally open up. I thought he might finally say something that would help me understand. But then, he spoke, and his words hit me like a slap in the face. I don't have anything to explain, he said coldly. You wouldn't understand anyway. It's complicated. I could feel my chest tightening with each word. Complicated? What does that even mean? All I want is the truth. There was a long silence on the other end of the line. I could feel him pulling away, retreating into himself. The wall he had built between us seemed higher than ever. I can't do this right now, Mom, he said finally, his voice barely audible. I'll talk to you later. And just like that, the line went dead. He had hung up on me. I stood there in the quiet of my living room, the phone still pressed to my ear, unable to process what had just happened. I felt as if the floor had been ripped out from under me, leaving me suspended in midair with no way to fall. My mind raced, trying to make sense of it all. What had just happened? Why was he acting like this? Why was he pushing me away? I had always been there for him. I had always done my best to be a good mother. And yet, here I was, standing, alone in the aftermath of his coldness. I felt a deep ache in my chest, a feeling of betrayal that I could not shake. I had never imagined that things would come to this, that my own son would choose to shut me out like this. I needed answers. But it seemed like the more I reached out, the more he pulled away. What had happened to the close relationship we once shared? What had happened to the trust we had built over so many years? I wanted to understand. I needed to understand. But for now, I was left with nothing but unanswered questions and a painful silence. The silence lingered for days. I waited for Daniel to call, for him to reach out and apologize, to explain what had happened. But each day passed, and each day I found myself alone, grappling with the emptiness he had left behind. I tried to stay busy, focusing on work and the small tasks that kept me grounded. I told myself that I was okay, that I didn't need him to explain. But deep down, I knew I was lying to myself. I was desperate for answers. I needed closure, something to make sense of the growing distance between us. Then, one evening, it happened. I was sitting in the living room, absent-mindedly flipping through a magazine, when my phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen, hoping against hope that it was Daniel. Maybe this time he had decided to talk. Maybe this time he would tell me what I had done wrong. But it wasn't Daniel. It was his wife. Megan. I stared at the message for a moment, unsure of what to feel. Megan had always been polite, but we had never been particularly close. I had tried to be welcoming when she married Daniel, but there had always been an invisible barrier between us. I had never truly understood her, and perhaps she had never truly understood me. I hesitated for a moment, then opened the message. Hi, Mom. I think we need to talk. Can you meet me tomorrow? I have something important to tell you. My heart skipped a beat. What could she possibly need to tell me? Was this about Daniel? Was this about the distance that had been growing between us? I quickly typed a response, agreeing to meet. It wasn't the conversation I had expected to have, but I was desperate for some kind of understanding. I needed to know why everything had changed. The next day, I met Megan at a small cafe near her apartment. As soon as I saw her sitting at the table, her posture tense and her eyes avoiding mine, I felt a wave of unease wash over me. She motioned for me to sit, and I did, my heart racing. I wanted to ask her what had happened, but I didn't want to push her too hard. I knew that whatever she was about to say would change everything. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The awkward silence stretched out, and I could feel the weight of the conversation pressing down on both of us. Finally, Megan took a deep breath and looked up at me. Mom, I don't know how to say this, she began, her voice barely above a whisper. But Daniel has been avoiding you because he's struggling with something. My stomach twisted. What could he possibly be struggling with? Was it something that had to do with me? Was it my fault? Megan continued, her voice trembling. He's been feeling guilty. He doesn't know how to tell you this, but he feels like he has to put distance between you because of what's been happening in his life. I leaned in closer, my heart pounding. What do you mean, Megan? What's been happening?" She hesitated, her hands shaking slightly as she fiddled with her coffee cup. "It's complicated," she said softly. He's been under a lot of pressure, with the house, the bills, and everything else. He's afraid that if he talks to you, you'll worry, and he doesn't want to burden you." I felt a cold wave wash over me. This wasn't the answer I had expected. The house, the bills. I had no idea what she was talking about. How could he be struggling with something like that without telling me? How could he keep it all to himself? "Why didn't he tell me?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Why didn't he come to me for help?" Megan shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I don't know. But I think he's ashamed. He doesn't want to admit that he's struggling. And he doesn't want you to think that he's not capable of handling things on his own." I sat back in my chair, trying to process what she was saying. I felt a mix of emotions: hurt, confusion, frustration, and something else that I couldn't quite put into words. "But I would have helped," I said quietly, my voice breaking. "I've always helped him. Why couldn't he come to me?" Megan looked down, guilt written all over her face. "I don't know, but I think he feels like he's failing you. Failing me." I couldn't understand. Daniel had never been a failure in my eyes. He had always been so strong, so capable. And yet, here he was, pushing me away, hiding his struggles, all because he thought I would see him as weak. I felt a deep ache in my chest. The bond we had shared, the trust that had always been there, was slipping away, and I didn't know how to stop it. As Megan spoke, it became clearer to me. Daniel wasn't just avoiding me because of something I had done. He was avoiding me because of something inside himself. He was afraid. He was afraid of disappointing me, afraid of showing weakness. And in his fear, he had created a wall between us. I had wanted to understand. And now, finally, I did. But understanding didn't make it any easier. The pain of being shut out, of being left in the dark, still hurt. And I couldn't help but wonder how things would ever be the same again. The weight of Megan's words settled over me like a heavy cloud. I felt like I had been holding my breath for too long, and now I was struggling to exhale. I stared at the table in front of me, trying to make sense of everything, but it felt impossible. All these years of trust and closeness. And yet Daniel had been hiding something so important from me. I tried to push away the feelings of hurt, but they lingered. They wouldn't leave. And no matter how much I wanted to understand, the truth of it all felt like a betrayal. Megan's voice broke through my thoughts, soft and unsure. "I know this is hard, Mom, but I'm just telling you what I know. I think he just needs some time to sort things out." I nodded slowly, though part of me didn't believe her. Time wouldn't change the way I felt. Time wouldn't fix the silence that had grown between us. And time certainly wouldn't erase the feelings of rejection that were now festering inside me. "I don't know what to do," I whispered, more to myself than to Megan. Megan reached across the table, her hand hesitating before resting gently on mine. "You don't have to do anything, Mom. Just give him space. I'm sure he'll come around." But I knew in my heart that this wasn't just about space. This was about something deeper, something that went beyond what Megan could understand. Daniel wasn't just distancing himself from me. He was distancing himself from everything we had built together. I stood up, feeling the need to move, to get away from the suffocating stillness of the cafe. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't sit there any longer, pretending that everything would be okay. I need some time, too, I said quietly, my voice barely audible over the quiet hum of conversation around us. I need to think. Megan looked at me with concern, but I could see the understanding in her eyes. She didn't argue or try to stop me. Instead, she just nodded, her expression softening. I turned and walked out of the cafe, the cold air outside hitting me with a sharp sting. It was as if the world had suddenly become too loud, too chaotic for me to handle. I felt like I was carrying the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions, and every step I took seemed to echo in my mind. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to fix things with Daniel. And to be honest, I wasn't sure if I could. How could I trust someone who had kept so much from me? How could I open my heart again when it felt like it had been shattered? As I walked down the street, I felt the tears welling up in my eyes. But I refused to let them fall. I couldn't afford to cry anymore. I couldn't afford to let the hurt take over. I needed to walk away. I needed to take a step back. Not just from Daniel, but from everything that had led me to this point. I needed to find my own peace, even if it meant leaving behind the life I had known. The familiar streets I walked seemed so distant now, as though they no longer belonged to me. I passed the places I had once loved, the park where I used to. Take Daniel as a child, the cafe where we had shared so many quiet afternoons. But everything felt different now. The memories were tainted by the silence, by the space that had opened between us. I kept walking, each step pulling me further away from the life I had once known. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that I couldn't keep standing still. I had to move forward, even if it meant walking alone for a while. The weight of Megan's words settled over me like a heavy cloud. I felt like I had been holding my breath for too long, and now I was struggling to exhale. I stared at the table in front of me, trying to make sense of everything, but it felt impossible. All these years of trust and closeness, and yet Daniel had been hiding something so important from me. I tried to push away the feelings of hurt, but they lingered. They wouldn't leave. And no matter how much I wanted to understand, the truth of it all felt like a betrayal. Megan's voice broke through my thoughts, soft and unsure. I know this is hard, Mom, but I'm just telling you what I know. I think he just needs some time to sort things out. I nodded slowly, though part of me didn't believe her. Time? Time wouldn't change the way I felt. Time wouldn't fix the silence that had grown between us. And time certainly wouldn't erase the feelings of rejection that were now festering inside me. I don't know what to do, I whispered, more to myself than to Megan. Megan reached across the table, her hand hesitating before resting gently on mine. You don't have to do anything, Mom. Just give him space. I'm sure he'll come around. But I knew in my heart that this wasn't just about space. This was about something deeper. Something that went beyond what Megan could understand. Daniel wasn't just distancing himself from me. He was distancing himself from everything we had built together. I stood up, feeling the need to move, to get away from the suffocating stillness of the cafe. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't sit there any longer, pretending that everything would be okay. I need some time too, I said quietly, my voice barely audible over the quiet hum of conversation around us. I need to think. Megan looked at me with concern, but I could see the understanding in her eyes. She didn't argue or try to stop me. Instead, she just nodded, her expression softening. I turned and walked out of the cafe, the cold air outside hitting me with a sharp sting. It was as if the world had suddenly become too loud, too chaotic for me to handle. I felt like I was carrying the weight of 1,000 unanswered questions, and every step I took seemed to echo in my mind. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know how to fix things with Daniel, and to be honest, I wasn't sure if I could. How could I trust someone who had kept so much from me? How could I open my heart again when it felt like it had been shattered? As I walked down the street, I felt the tears welling up in my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I couldn't afford to cry anymore. I couldn't afford to let the hurt take over. I needed to walk away. I needed to take a step back. Not just from Daniel, but from everything that had led me to this point. I needed to find my own peace, even if it meant leaving behind the life I had known. The familiar streets I walked seemed so distant now, as though they no longer belonged to me. I passed the places I had once loved, the park where I used to take Daniel as a child, the cafe where we had shared so many quiet afternoons. But everything felt different now. The memories were tainted by the silence, by the space that had opened between us. I kept walking, each step pulling me further away from the life I had once known. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew that I couldn't keep standing. Still, I had to move forward even if it meant walking alone for a while. There are moments in life when the past seems so much closer than it really is. It feels as though I could reach out and touch it, bring it back if only I tried hard enough. But I know, deep down, that the past is gone. It's not something I can retrieve or live in again. Still, the longing persists. Some days I can't help but ache for it. I miss the way things used to be, before everything became so complicated, before the pain started seeping into every corner of my life. Think about the old days, the days when our family was whole and happy. We would gather together for holidays, for birthdays, for simple dinners after a long day. I remember the laughter, the joy, the feeling of being surrounded by people who truly cared for me. I remember how I felt loved, secure, and connected to my family. I remember those nights when we'd sit around the table, talking about everything and nothing. The world felt peaceful then, and I was grateful for every moment of it. Back then, I had no reason to doubt the strength of our family. I had no reason to question the love I thought was unshakable. There was a trust between us that seemed so solid, so reliable. But now, that trust feels like it has been cracked wide open. What we once shared feels like a distant memory. And as I sit in this house, so full of reminders of our past, it is hard not to miss those times. The memories are so clear, so vivid, and yet they are becoming increasingly harder to hold on to. I remember Daniel as a child, his face filled with wonder and excitement. I remember the way his eyes would sparkle when he got excited about something. Whether it was a new toy or a special trip we were planning, he was always so full of life, so eager to share everything with me. Those were the moments I cherished the most, the moments when I could see how much he relied on me, how much he needed me. I could feel my love for him pouring out, and it was so easy to be his mother in those days. But now, things are different. I see him, and yet I don't. The boy I once knew seems to have faded, replaced by a man I no longer fully understand. The connection that once felt so strong is now frail and uncertain. I know that he has changed, but I also know that I have changed. The pain of betrayal, of disappointment, has marked me in ways I didn't expect. I'm no longer the person I was before everything fell apart, and I don't think he is either. I often find myself staring at the old photographs that line the walls of the house, each one a reminder of what once was. There is one picture of us from a family vacation. Daniel, his father, and I standing together by the beach, the sunlight casting a warm glow on our faces. We were happy then, genuinely happy. There was no hint of the struggles that would come, no inkling that our world would soon begin to unravel. I remember the feeling of the sand beneath my feet, the sound of the waves, and the laughter we shared as we explored the world together. It was a moment of pure joy, a moment when everything felt perfect. But now, when I look at that picture, it feels like a lifetime ago. I wonder if we will ever have those moments again. I wonder if the warmth we shared was only temporary, if it was just a fleeting glimpse of happiness before the cold reality set in. And I wonder if I will ever be able to feel that kind of peace again. The peace that came from knowing I was part of something whole, something unbreakable. I cannot help but miss those days. I cannot help but yearn for the simplicity of the past, for the days when everything seemed so much clearer. I miss the security of knowing that, no matter what happened, my family would always be there. I miss the way we were there for each other, supporting one another through every challenge. And I miss the way I could rely on Daniel, trusting that he would always be by my side. But now, those days feel like they belong to someone else. I find myself questioning everything that I once believed to be true. What happened to the family I thought I knew? What happened to the love we shared? The memories of those times are still there, but they feel distant now. Like a dream fading away when I wake up, it is hard to let go of those memories. It is hard to accept that what we had is no longer. But I know that I must, because clinging to the past will only keep me from moving forward. I can't live in a memory, no matter how beautiful it was. I have to face the reality of where I am now, even though it is painful. I miss the way things used to be, the way we used to be. I miss the comfort, the connection, the sense of belonging. But I also know that I cannot stay stuck in the past. I have to find a way to heal, to move on, and to find peace within myself. The past will always be a part of me, but I can't let it define my future. I have always been someone who preferred to keep things to myself. I didn't like burdening others with my problems. I thought that if I could just figure things out on my own, I would be stronger for it. But after everything that has happened, I've realized that I cannot carry this weight alone anymore. The pain, the confusion, the betrayal. It has become too much for me to bear by myself. I found myself sitting in the quiet of my living room one afternoon, staring out the window. The world outside seemed so far away, so distant from the turmoil I was feeling inside. I could hear the soft rustle of the leaves in the trees, the hum of the cars passing by, but it all felt muted, like I was in my own little bubble. It was in that moment that I realized I needed to talk to someone. I needed to open up, to share the pain I had been hiding for so long. I picked up my phone, my fingers trembling as I scrolled through my contacts. There were a few people I could reach out to, but one name stood out. It was Sarah, my best friend. She had been there for me through so much in the past, always a steady presence in my life. We had known each other for years, and despite the distance that time and life had created between us, I knew that she would understand. I hesitated for a moment, wondering if I was doing the right thing. Was it really fair to ask her for help? She had her own life, her own problems. But then, I remembered how many times she had listened to me in the past, how many times she had supported me when I needed it most. This wasn't just about me. This was about the friendship we had built over the years, the trust we shared. I pressed her name and sent her a message. "Can we talk? I need someone right now." It didn't take long for her to reply. "Of course, I'll call you in a few minutes." As I waited, my heart pounded in my chest. I wasn't sure what I was going to say or how I was going to explain everything that had been happening. It felt like there were so many emotions swirling inside of me: anger, sadness, confusion. How could I even begin to untangle all of it? But I knew that I had to try. The phone rang, and I picked it up, my voice a little shaky. "Hi, Sarah." "Hey, how are you?" she asked, her voice warm and comforting. I paused for a moment, unsure of how to answer. "I don't know, Sarah. I'm struggling." There was silence on the other end for a moment before she spoke again. "You don't have to go through this alone, you know. Talk to me. What's going on?" I took a deep breath, trying to gather my thoughts. I had no idea where to start, but I knew that I had to let it out. "It's Daniel. He's changed, and I don't know how to handle it. I feel like I don't even know him anymore. And then there's everything with his wife. I just don't know what to do." I could hear Sarah's steady breathing on the other end of the line. She wasn't interrupting me, just letting me talk. I felt a small sense of relief, knowing that she was there, listening. "I feel so lost, Sarah. It's like everything I thought I knew about my family is falling apart, and I don't know if I can fix it." "You don't have to fix everything, Rachel," she said softly. "Sometimes we can't fix things, but we can learn to live with the pain, to heal in our own time. You don't have to carry this burden alone." Her words were like a balm to my soul. I had been so focused on fixing everything, on finding a way to make things right, that I hadn't stopped to consider the possibility that maybe I didn't have to fix it at all. Maybe I just needed to find a way to accept it, to heal from it. "I just feel so hurt, Sarah," I continued, my voice thick with emotion. "I trusted him. I trusted Daniel. And now, it feels like that trust has been shattered. I don't know how to move forward when I'm still carrying all of this pain." "I know it's hard," she said, her voice gentle, "but I want you to know that you're not alone. You have me, and you will get through this. You will heal, even if it doesn't feel like it now." I felt a lump form in my throat. It was the first time in a long while that someone had said those words to me, and for the first time in a long while, I believed them. I wasn't alone. I had someone who cared. Someone who was willing to be there for me, no matter how difficult things became. "Thank you, Sarah," I whispered, my voice trembling. "I'm always here for you, Rachel. Always," she replied. "You don't have to go through this by yourself." We talked for a little while longer, and though the pain was still there, I felt a small sense of peace begin to settle in. It was as if the weight of the world had been lifted just a little. I didn't have all the answers, but I didn't need to. I just needed to take it one step at a time, one moment at a time. As I hung up the phone, I felt a glimmer of hope. It wasn't a solution to everything, but it was a start. I had reached out, I had asked for help, and I had received it. And for the first time in a long while, I felt like maybe, just maybe, I could get through this. It is funny how life works sometimes. I never imagined that I would be saying goodbye to someone I had known for so long. Yet, here I am, standing at the crossroads, facing the painful decision of letting go. Letting go of someone I thought I would always have in my life, someone I thought would be there for me through thick and thin. But sometimes, life does not go as we expect. Sometimes people change, relationships shift, and we are forced to accept things that we never wanted, too. And so, I find myself standing at the edge of this decision, knowing deep down that it is the right one, even though it hurts. Saying goodbye is never easy, no matter how much you know it is necessary. There is a heaviness in my chest, a weight that feels like it is crushing me. The tears threaten to spill, but I hold them back. I cannot let myself fall apart right now. I have come too far, and I know that I need to move forward. But it is so hard. I think back to all the years we spent together, the laughter, the memories, the moments of happiness we shared. How could everything change so suddenly? How could someone I once trusted so deeply turn into someone I no longer recognize? I remember the day we first met, how full of promise the future seemed. We were young, carefree, and the world felt like it was full of endless possibilities. We had big dreams, dreams that we spoke of late at night when the world was quiet. I never imagined that one day I would be standing here, saying goodbye to those dreams. It is strange how life can take us down paths we never expected. The person I had married, the person I had once called my partner, is no longer the person standing in front of me. And I realize that, in some ways, I am no longer the person I used to be either. I have changed. I have grown. And I can no longer hold on to something that is no longer healthy for me. I find myself standing in front of the door, ready to walk away, but a part of me hesitates. I look back one last time, seeing the life we once built together. I think about the years we spent, the home we created, the family we built. How can I just walk away from all of that? How can I let go of everything? But as I stand there, I realize that sometimes letting go is not about forgetting the past. It is not about erasing the memories or pretending they never existed. Letting go is about accepting that things change, that people change, and that we have to move forward, no matter how hard it may be. I take a deep breath and open the door. I step outside, leaving behind the life I once knew. The air is cool, and I can feel the weight lifting slightly from my shoulders. It is not easy, but it is necessary. And as I take that first step into the unknown, I feel a small flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, this is the beginning of something new. As I walk away, I say goodbye, not just to him, but to the person I was when I was with him. I say goodbye to the dreams we had, the life we built, and the person I thought he was. I say goodbye, not because I hate him, but because I love myself enough to know that I deserve more. And that is the most important thing of all. The house feels different now, quieter, emptier. It has only been a few days since I made the decision to walk away, but already the silence feels deafening. There is a part of me that wants to scream, to cry, to break down. but I do not. Instead, I sit quietly, allowing the weight of everything to settle within me, alone. That is how I feel now. The word feels strange, almost foreign. I never thought I would be alone again, not like this. I spent so many years surrounded by people, by him, by the life we built. I had never truly known what it meant to be alone, to stand on my own without anyone to rely on. But now, here I am, in the quiet of my own home, feeling the sting of solitude. It is a loneliness that I cannot escape, no matter how hard I try. It is not just the physical absence of someone next to me, but the emotional emptiness that comes with it. I feel like a part of me is missing, as if something essential has been taken away. But even in the midst of this loneliness, I know that I am not lost. I have been here before, in a way. I have experienced heartache, pain, and disappointment, and I have survived it. I have been through storms, and I have come out stronger on the other side. This too shall pass. I walk through the house, touching the things that once held meaning. A photograph here, a letter there. Each item a reminder of the life I left behind. It feels strange, almost like I am walking through someone else's house, someone else's memories, and yet, they are mine. This was once my life, and I cannot simply erase it. But I am no longer that person. I am different now. I have changed. I have learned things about myself that I never knew before. I have discovered strength within me that I never thought I had. And even though the loneliness is still there, I can feel the quiet whispers of resilience growing inside me. I take a deep breath and stand in front of the mirror. I look at myself, really look at myself. For the first time in a long while, I see the woman who was hurt, the woman who suffered, but I also see the woman who survived. I see someone who has endured and come out the other side with more wisdom, more strength, and more courage. For the first time in a long time, I feel proud of myself. It is a small, quiet pride, but it is there. And it is enough to keep me going. I am alone now. Yes. But I am not weak. I am not broken. I am not lost. I am simply in a new chapter of my life, one that I did not expect, but one that I am ready to face. And even though the pain is still there, even though the loneliness still lingers, I know that I am not truly alone. I have myself. And for the first time in a long time, that feels like enough. It is strange, the way life changes you. I look at myself now, and I hardly recognize the person I was before. The woman who once believed that love could conquer all, that family could never turn their back on you. The woman who thought she knew exactly where her life was going. That woman is gone. She faded the moment I made the decision to walk away. And while part of me mourns the loss of that version of myself, another part of me knows that I have grown stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. I was once afraid of change. I feared what it would mean for me, for my family, for the life I had built. But now, I see change as a necessary part of the process. It is not something to be feared, but something to embrace. Change has taught me that I can survive even the toughest of storms. It has shown me that I am capable of more than I ever imagined. As I reflect on everything that has happened, I realize that I am not the same woman I was before. I am more than the sum of my experiences, more than the heartbreak and betrayal that I once thought would destroy me. I have learned how to stand on my own, how to trust myself, and how to find peace within. There are days when the loneliness still creeps in, when the quiet of the house feels overwhelming. But it is different now. I do not feel lost in it. I do not feel like I am drowning in my own emotions. Instead, I feel a quiet strength within me that I never knew existed. I am not the same woman who once relied on others for validation, for love, for acceptance. I have learned that the most important validation comes from within. I do not need anyone's approval to know my worth. I do not need anyone to tell me that I am enough. I know it now. It is not easy, this journey. It is not easy to walk away from the life you thought you would have, to let go of the person you thought you would be. But it is necessary. And with each passing day, I feel myself becoming more and more the woman I am meant to be. I am no longer defined by my past or by the people who have hurt me. I am defined by my resilience, by my courage, and by my ability to rise above the pain. I am stronger now, in ways I never imagined possible. And though there are still moments of doubt, moments when I wonder if I made the right choice, I know deep down that this is the path I had to take. This is the path that will lead me to a better, stronger version of myself. It is not an easy path, but it is the one I must walk. I am not the same, and that is a good thing. It happens slowly, this shift in your heart. At first it feels like a flicker, something too small to notice. But then over time, that little spark begins to grow. It does not happen overnight, and it certainly does not happen without effort. But eventually, it becomes clear that a small light has started to shine within me. It was not the kind of light I had expected, the kind that brightens everything all at once. No, this light is quieter. It is softer. It is a subtle warmth that grows in moments when I find myself smiling for no particular reason or feeling a sense of calm when I used to be consumed by anxiety. For so long I was trapped in a cycle of hurt, of doubt, and of fear. I thought that nothing would ever change, that the scars of the past would never fade. But this small light reminds me that healing is not a destination. It is a journey, and it comes in its own time. I start to notice the little things again. The way the sunlight filters through the trees in the morning, the sound of birds singing outside my window, the way the world seems to pause for just a moment, allowing me to breathe. These are the things I had stopped paying attention to. In the midst of my pain, I had forgotten how to appreciate the simple beauty that life offers. And so I begin again. I find myself walking outside, breathing in the fresh air, taking in the colors of the world around me. I laugh a little more easily. I engage in conversations without fear, and I begin to look forward to the future rather than dread it. This small light gives me the courage to believe that maybe, just maybe, I can find joy again. It does not promise that everything will be perfect, or that life will be without its challenges. But it whispers softly that I am capable of finding happiness in the small moments, in the quiet spaces between the chaos. I have learned that it is okay to take things one step at a time, that healing does not happen in one grand gesture, but in the everyday moments of choosing to be present, of choosing to forgive, of choosing to let go. This light, though small, is enough to guide me forward. I am still on my journey, still working through the layers of pain and disappointment. But with this small light within me, I feel more hopeful. I feel more alive. And for the first time in a long time, I begin to believe that happiness is not something I have to chase. It is something I can invite into my life, little by little. It is a quiet kind of strength that I feel now. It is not loud or forceful, but it is steady, and I know that as long as I carry this light within me, I will never truly be lost again. There is something both humbling and freeing about starting over. It is as if the weight of everything that has come before me lifts, even if just for a moment. In that moment, I feel lighter. It is not that I have forgotten everything. It is more that I have learned how to carry it all in a way that does not bury me. Each day, I try to do something small to rebuild my life, piece by piece. The process is slow, but it is steady, and that is what matters. I am learning to be patient with myself, to understand that the road ahead is long, but that I am walking it, step by step. I begin to take more care with the way I treat myself, the way I talk to myself. For so long, I had been my harshest critic, punishing myself for things that were not my fault, blaming myself for things I could not control. But now, I understand that I deserve the same kindness I give to others. And so, I begin to speak to myself as I would to a friend, with compassion and understanding. I go back to the things I love. I pick up a book. I sit by the window with a cup of tea, and I allow myself to feel joy in the simple moments. I had forgotten what that felt like, the peace of just being in the present, of not worrying about what came before or what is yet to come. In these moments, I realize how much I have missed the ability to just be. And then, one day, I decide to go for a walk. It is nothing grand, nothing extraordinary, but it is a start. I breathe in the cool air, feel the earth beneath my feet, and for the first time in a long while, I feel like I am connected to the world around me again. It is a small thing, but it is a step forward. It is a sign that I am moving, that I am no longer stagnant in the place where pain had once kept me trapped. I begin to rebuild my routines, to find a new rhythm in my life. It is not easy. Some days are harder than others, but I keep going. I remind myself that healing is not linear, that some days will feel like progress and others like setbacks. But that is okay. I am learning to accept the ebb and flow of life, to ride the waves instead of fighting against them. I also start to open myself up to new possibilities. I reconnect with old friends and make new ones. I allow myself to laugh without guilt, to experience joy without wondering if I deserve it. It feels strange at first, as though I am stepping into a new version of myself, one that is still unfamiliar, still a little uncertain. But I trust that I will grow into this new version of me. It is not about forgetting the past. It is not about pretending that everything is fine when it is not. It is about choosing to move forward, choosing to live, despite the scars I carry. It is about finding strength in the broken places and using them as the foundation for something new. And so, I begin again. One small step at a time, I rebuild. It will take time. It will take patience. But I believe in the possibility of something better, something brighter. I believe that I can create a life that is filled with peace, with love, and with joy. And most importantly, I believe in myself again. It has been several months since I made the decision to walk away from everything that had hurt me. I am still rebuilding, still learning to stand on my own 2 feet without relying on anyone else for my sense of worth or happiness. Slowly but surely, I have carved out a life for myself. A life that is mine, where I get to make the rules. And yet, just when I thought I had found my balance, just when I thought I was moving forward, I hear from him again. It happens one evening. I am sitting at the kitchen table, enjoying a quiet moment with a cup of tea when my phone buzzes. The familiar name flashes on the screen, and for a moment, I freeze. My heart skips a beat, a mix of disbelief and old memories flooding my mind. I hesitate. I stare at the phone, unsure of what to do. The last time we spoke, I had made it clear that I needed space, that I could not continue to live in a world that felt broken and painful. Yet here he is, reaching out to me. As though nothing has changed, I take a deep breath, my fingers trembling as I slide the phone open. His message is simple. Can we talk? I don't know why, but I feel a surge of emotion rise in me. Part of me wants to ignore him, to keep walking forward without looking back. But another part of me, one I cannot quite silence, feels a strange pull, as though a door has been opened, and I am somehow supposed to walk through it. It takes me a few moments to collect myself before I respond. I do not want to give him too much of my energy, but at the same time, I cannot ignore the curiosity that stirs inside me. I type back, "What do you want to talk about?" His reply is quick. "I miss you. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, and I want to make things right." I read the message several times, trying to make sense of the words, the desire to make things right. How many times had I heard those words from him in the past? How many times had he promised that things would change, only to fall back into old patterns, leaving me hurt and disappointed? I feel the old pain creep in, the memories of the lies, the silence, the times when I begged for honesty and trust, only to be met with disappointment. The past is not so easily forgotten. Still, something shifts inside me. I find myself wondering, why now? Why after all this? Time does he want to come back? Is it guilt? Is it loneliness? Or is he truly seeking change? I close my eyes, remembering the woman I was before all of this, the woman who believed in second chances, the woman who held on to hope even when it seemed foolish. I wonder if that woman still exists somewhere inside me. I wonder if I am ready to face the person who hurt me, to hear him out, even if just to understand why. I pause before typing again, unsure of how to respond. My heart tells me to protect myself, to stay firm in the boundaries I have worked so hard to set. But there is a small part of me that wants to hear his voice, to see if there is any trace of the man I once loved left in him. I decide to reply. I am listening, but I need to be clear. I cannot go back to the way things were. I have changed. His response comes almost instantly. I understand. I just want to talk. That's all. I feel a mix of emotions, anger, confusion, but also something I cannot quite name. I know that this conversation could lead to nothing, or it could reopen old wounds, but I feel compelled to hear him out. Maybe this is the final piece I need to truly let go of everything. Maybe I need to hear his words, not for him, but for me, to find closure. And so, I agree to meet him. We set a time and place, and as the Amor day approaches, I feel a nervous tension in my chest. I do not know what to expect, but I know that whatever happens, I will be ready. I will listen, but I will not lose myself in the process. I will not make the same mistake again. The day has come, and I find myself standing at the small cafe where we agreed to meet. It is a quiet, calm place, with soft music playing in the background and the smell of freshly brewed coffee in the air. It feels strangely familiar, like a place where old memories might resurface. But today, I tell myself, I will not let those memories pull me back in. I take a deep breath before I walk through the door. My heart is steady now, more certain than it has been in months. I am not the same person who left him behind. I am not the same person who allowed his words and actions to define me. When I spot him, sitting by the window, my stomach tightens. His face has not changed much. Still the same features. Still the same eyes that once held so many promises. But as I look at him, I feel something shift. I do not see him with the same tenderness, the same hope that once made me believe in his words. I have changed. As I approach the table, he stands up. His eyes meet mine, and for a moment, I feel the weight of the past pressing in. But then I remember who I am now, and I sit down with a quiet resolve. I look at him, waiting for him to speak first. He clears his throat, his hands slightly shaking as he picks up his coffee. "I know it has been a long time," he begins. "I've done a lot of thinking, and I know I hurt you. I'm sorry." His words are what I expected, an apology, but they do not feel as meaningful as they once would have. I have heard them before, over and over again, each time followed by promises that never lasted. I am different now. I take a deep breath before responding. "I am glad you are sorry, but apologies do not fix everything. You hurt me. You left me feeling worthless, and I cannot pretend that did not change me." His eyes drop, and I can see the weight of regret in his expression. But I do not feel the old pull of sympathy that I used to. It is not enough anymore. "I know," he says softly, his voice filled with sorrow. "I know I can never undo what I did, but I want to try. I want to make things right between us." I look at him, searching his face for something, anything, that might make me believe in his words. But all I see is the same man who once promised me forever, only to leave me broken and alone. I have learned that words alone are not enough. I cannot go back, I say firmly, my voice steady. I have spent too long trying to heal from everything that happened, and I have learned that I do not need you to feel whole. His face falls, and for a moment, I feel a flicker of something. Guilt, regret, but I do not let it sway me. "You were a part of my past," I continue, "but you do not have a place in my future. I have learned to trust myself. I have learned to stand on my own." The words feel powerful as I say them, and I realize that for the first time in a long time, I am truly at peace with my decision. He nods slowly, his eyes filled with understanding, but I can see the sadness there too. "I wish I could change things," he says quietly, "but I know I can't. There is nothing more to say." We sit in silence for a moment, the weight of the conversation hanging between us. But even in that silence, I feel a sense of calm wash over me. I'm not the same woman I was when I walked into this cafe. I am stronger, wiser, and more aware of what I need and deserve. When I stand up to leave, I feel a quiet strength that I have not felt in a long time. I do not need his approval or his love to feel whole. I have learned to choose myself, to prioritize my own happiness over the promises of someone who could not keep them. As I walk out of the cafe, I take a deep breath feeling the cool air on my face. I know that I am different now, and for the first time in years, I am okay with that. As I step into the cool, crisp air outside the cafe, I feel the weight of the conversation slowly lifting from my shoulders. The last few years have been heavy, filled with uncertainty and pain. But today, as I walk away from him, I feel something shift inside of me. Something stronger than I've ever felt before. I choose myself. I can't remember the last time I said those words, let alone believed them. For so long, my life has revolved around others, my family, my relationships, my hopes for a future that was never meant to be. But now, in the silence of this moment, I realize that it is time to put myself first. I don't need anyone's approval or validation anymore. I have spent so much of my life seeking those things, believing that without them, I wasn't enough. But I am enough. I am more than enough. I walk down the street with a new sense of purpose. The world feels different, as if everything around me is coming into focus for the first time in years. It's as though I've been walking in a fog, not truly seeing the world or myself. But now, the fog is lifting, and I can see clearly. As I pass by people on the street, I no longer feel invisible. I feel strong, like I am walking through the world with a sense of power that was always inside of me, but buried under layers of self-doubt and fear. I can't change the past, but I can control what happens next. And from this moment on, I choose me. I think about the things I used to love, the things that made me feel alive. I used to love painting, spending hours with a brush in my hand, lost in the colors and the strokes. I think about how I used to feel when I was surrounded by friends, laughing and talking, the world feeling light and full of possibilities. I realize that I've been so focused on the hurt, so consumed by the mistakes of others, that I've forgotten how to live for myself. I've forgotten what it feels like to enjoy the simple things. Today, I begin again. I pick up my phone and send a quick message to an old friend I haven't spoken to in months. Hey, I'm thinking about starting painting again. Would you want to join me for an art class sometime? It feels strange, like I'm stepping into a new life that's mine to shape. But it also feels freeing. For the first time in so long, I am doing something for me. No one else. Just me. I find a little smile on my lips as I walk home. My steps are lighter, and my heart feels fuller. I know that the road ahead will not be easy, but I also know that I have the strength to face whatever comes my way. For the first time, I believe that I am worthy of happiness. I am worthy of love. Not from someone else, but from myself. As I reach my front door, I pause for a moment. The house feels quieter than it ever has, but today, the quiet feels peaceful. There is no longer a void where his absence once loomed. I am learning to fill that space with my own joy, my own sense of self-worth. I choose to fill this space with love. Love for myself, for my own journey, and for the future I am building on my own terms. The morning sun spills through the curtains, casting a soft golden light across the room. I wake up to the sound of birds chirping outside, a simple, peaceful melody that fills my heart with a sense of calm. It is a new day, and for the first time in a long while, I am excited to face it. I sit up in bed, stretching my arms above my head, feeling the muscles in my back and shoulders shift as if they too are waking up after a long slumber. My body feels different today, lighter, freer. It's like I've let go of a weight I didn't even know I was carrying. The burden of past pain and regret no longer holds me down. As I get out of bed and start my morning routine, everything feels new. The smell of fresh coffee fills the air as I pour myself a cup. I take a sip, savoring the warmth, feeling it wake me up in the gentlest way. The kitchen, once a place where I felt overwhelmed by the tasks of daily life, now feels like a space of possibility. I stand at the counter, looking out the window, and I realize something. I have choices now. I have control. I no longer feel like I am living in the shadows of others' decisions. I am living for myself, and that feels incredibly empowering. The weight of the past no longer defines me. My past choices, mistakes, and heartaches are just chapters in my story, but they do not define who I am today. I choose who I am. I choose how I want to live. I think back to the days when I was consumed by doubts and fears. I remember how small and insignificant I used to feel. But that woman, the one who was afraid to take control of her own life, is no longer here. She is gone, replaced by someone who is strong and resilient. Someone who knows her worth. As I finish my breakfast, I think about what I want to do with the rest of my day. The possibilities feel endless. I could go for a walk in the park, visit a local bookstore, or perhaps just spend some quiet time reading at home. There is no pressure, no rush. I am free to do what makes me feel good. I remember the painting class I messaged my friend about yesterday. I feel a small flutter of excitement at the thought. It's something I have always wanted to try again, but I had put it off for so long, always thinking that I didn't have the time or the energy. But now, I realize that I do have the time. I have all the time in the world to rediscover the things that make me happy. As I get dressed and head out for the day, I feel a sense of lightness in my heart. There is no weight on my shoulders anymore. I am not carrying the past with me. I am not waiting for anyone to validate me or make me feel worthy. I am worthy. Simply because I exist, I step outside, and the air feels fresh and invigorating. The world is full of life, and I am a part of it. For the first time, I feel like I am truly living. Not just existing, but living. I smile to myself, knowing that this is just the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where I am the one in control of my happiness, my future, and my destiny. It is a quiet afternoon. The sunlight filters gently through the trees outside my window, casting dancing shadows on the floor. I sit in my favorite chair, a place I've claimed for myself over the years, and I find myself lost in thought. Think about everything that has happened, the pain, the heartache, the uncertainty, and I feel a profound sense of gratitude. Not for the difficult moments themselves, but for what they have taught me. The hardest lessons often come wrapped in the most painful experiences, and though I would never wish for any of it to happen again, I now see how it all shaped me. I think about the woman I was when I first found out everything, the woman who was broken and scared, unsure of what the future held. That woman thought she would never recover, that she would always carry the weight of betrayal, hurt, and disappointment. But here I am, stronger, wiser, and more in control of my life than ever before. I feel thankful for those moments of deep sorrow, because they led me to this point of clarity. They allowed me to understand what it means to truly care for myself, to protect my peace and my happiness. I never knew how much power I had inside me until I had to face those dark days. Now, I am filled with a sense of awe at the strength I possess. It was always there. I just needed to find it. I also feel thankful for the people who have supported me along the way. Friends who listened when I needed to talk, who didn't judge me when I made mistakes, and who never gave up on me, even when I didn't believe in myself. I think of my family, who may not have understood all my decisions, but who never stopped loving me. Their love has been a steady anchor in the stormy seas of my life, and I feel thankful for the moments of joy that have surprised me along the way. The times when I laughed for the first time after the hurt, when I found joy in simple things like a walk in the park or a good book. Life has not been easy, but it has also been full of unexpected beauty. I have learned to cherish those small, quiet moments that bring peace. I think about the lesson I have learned. I am the only one responsible for my happiness. I do not need anyone to complete me or to make me feel worthy. I am complete on my own. My value does not come from others' opinions or actions. It comes from within. As I sit here, I smile softly to myself. It is a smile of acceptance, of peace. I have let go of the anger, the resentment, and the regret. I have forgiven myself for the mistakes I have made, and I have made peace with the past. I look out the window and I realize that this moment, right here, is enough. I do not need anything more. I am grateful for everything I have, everything I have learned, and everything that lies ahead. I close my eyes for a moment, letting the stillness wash over me, and I whisper quietly, as though speaking directly to the universe. Thank you. Thank you for showing me my strength. Thank you for the people who love me. Thank you for the lessons, even the painful ones. Thank you for this moment of peace. Thank you for everything. And as I open my eyes, I feel a sense of calm that I have never known before. I am finally at peace. There is something freeing about forgiveness. It is not something I fully understood until now, but today, I am learning. I am learning that to forgive someone does not mean that what they did is okay. It does not mean that I forget the hurt, or that I pretend it never happened. But it means that I choose to let go of the weight that I have been carrying. I choose to stop allowing that pain to control me. Today, I am learning to forgive myself. I think back on all the moments when I blamed myself for everything that went wrong. There were times when I thought I should have seen it sooner, that I should have made different choices, that I should have known better. I told myself I was weak for staying, that I was foolish for trusting, and that I was somehow responsible for the hurt. But now, I see things differently. I was only human. I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. I could not have known what would happen. I couldn't have predicted the choices others would make. I see now that it was never my fault. I do not need to carry the shame, the guilt, or the regret anymore. I am not perfect, but I have learned. I have grown. I have changed. I have become someone who is stronger, wiser, and more capable of taking care of herself. Forgiving myself is not something I can do overnight. It is a process, one that takes time, patience, and compassion. But today, I am taking that first step. Today, I choose to release myself from the burden of guilt. I choose to love myself, flaws, and all. I think about all the things I have done wrong in the past, and I realize that I do not have to keep punishing myself for them. I am not defined by my mistakes. They do not make me who I am. Who I am is someone who has learned from those mistakes, someone who is becoming a better version of herself every day. I feel a wave of relief wash over me, as if a weight has been lifted off my chest. It feels strange, almost too light, but it is also incredibly freeing. I realize that I have been holding on to the past for so long, but now I am ready to let it go. I forgive myself for the times I doubted my worth. I forgive myself for staying in situations that hurt me. I forgive myself for the times I was too hard on myself. And I forgive myself for the times I let fear stop me from moving forward. As I sit quietly, I feel a deep sense of peace within me. The pain of the past is still there, but it no longer has control over me. I have let go of the anger, the guilt, and the self-blame. I have forgiven myself, and with that forgiveness, I feel lighter, freer, and more at peace than I have in a long time. The future no longer feels so uncertain. I do not know exactly what lies ahead, but for the first time in a long time, I feel ready to face it. I know that I am stronger than I once thought. I know that I can handle whatever comes my way. And for the first time in a long time, I feel proud of myself. I have made it through the hardest moments of my life, and I am still here. I am still standing. I forgive myself, and that is enough. Freedom is a word I have heard many times, but today, I feel it in my bones. Today, it is not just a word. It is a feeling, a truth I can finally claim. For so long, I had been living in a shadow of my own making, bound by the expectations of others, the regrets of my past, and the fear of the unknown. I had convinced myself that I was trapped, that there was no way out of the pain, no way out of the mistakes. But today, I feel free. It is not the kind of freedom you read about in books or hear about in songs. It is not the kind of freedom that comes with grand gestures or dramatic moments. It is a quiet freedom, a soft, slow release from everything that has held me captive for so long. I sit in the quiet of my room, letting the stillness wash over me. There is no rush, no urgency, just the peaceful rhythm of my own breath. For the first time in a long time, I am not rushing to fix anything. I am not trying to control the outcome of the situation. I am simply allowing myself to be. I realize now that true freedom is not about being free from responsibilities or problems. It is not about escaping the things that challenge us. It is about being free from the emotional chains that bind us. It is about finding peace within, despite the chaos around us. I am free from the guilt that used to haunt me. I am free from the shame that weighed me down. I am free from the fear that kept me in place, afraid to move forward. I am free to be who I am, without apology or hesitation. I think about the many times I tried to fix everything, to make everything perfect. I wanted to control the narrative, to make sure everyone was happy, to make sure I was loved. But now, I see that the more I tried to control things, the more I lost myself. I see that true happiness does not come from pleasing others. It comes from within. I am no longer seeking validation from anyone else. I am no longer waiting for approval or permission to live my life. I have learned that I am worthy of love, not because of what I do or who I please, but simply because I exist. As I sit in this moment of quiet reflection, I realize that I have come a long way. There were times when I thought I would never get here, when I thought I would be stuck forever in the pain and confusion. But now, I see that every step, every mistake, every tear has led me to this moment. I am free. The weight that once held me down has been lifted, and I feel a lightness I have not known in years. I can breathe easier. I can think more clearly. I can see the world with fresh eyes, full of possibility and hope. I no longer fear the future. I no longer fear the unknown. Because I know now that no matter what comes my way, I will be okay. I am strong. I am capable. I am enough. And that is the most freeing feeling of all. I smile softly to myself, letting the peace of the moment settle in. I do not know what tomorrow will bring, but for the first time I feel ready to face it. I feel ready to embrace life without fear, without regret. Today, I am free. For the first time in my life, I truly understand who I am. I do not mean the version of me that I used to show to the world, the one who wore a mask, hiding my true feelings and fears. I am not talking about the person I thought I should be, based on the expectations of others. No. Today I understand who I really am. The woman who has been through the fire, who has come out on the other side stronger, wiser, and more at peace with herself than ever before. I have spent so much of my life trying to be something I was not. I tried to be perfect, to be the person everyone else wanted me to be. I thought that by doing so, I would find love, acceptance, and happiness. But in doing so, I lost myself. I lost the woman who dreams, who hopes, who feels deeply. I lost the woman who has the strength to stand up for herself, even when it feels like the world is against her. I lost the woman who knows that her worth is not tied to anyone else's opinion of her. But now, I see her clearly. She was always there, beneath the layers of doubt and fear. She is the woman who has walked through the hardest moments of her life and still found the strength to rise. She is the woman who knows her worth, who values herself, and who refuses to settle for anything less than respect and love. I can feel the difference in the way I carry myself now. I no longer shrink back when faced with challenges. I no longer hesitate to speak my truth. I no longer apologize for being me. For so long, I looked to others for validation. I thought that if I could just make them happy, if I could just prove my worth, then I would feel complete. But now, I realize that I was never going to find that fulfillment outside of myself. The only person I needed to validate me was me. I am not perfect, and I do not need to be. I am human, and I am allowed to make mistakes. I am allowed to grow, to learn, to change. I am allowed to be flawed, but despite all my flaws, I am enough. I am worthy of love. I am worthy of respect. And most importantly, I am worthy of happiness. As I look back on everything I have been through, I see how far I have come. I remember the days when I was afraid to speak up, when I was too scared to make a decision for myself, when I thought I had no power. But now, I see that all those experiences were leading me to this moment, to this woman I have become. I am strong. I am resilient. I am capable of facing whatever comes my way. I know who I am now, and I do not need anyone's approval to feel good about it. I smile to myself as I stand tall, proud of the woman I have become. I am not perfect, but I am real. I am not the same woman I was before, and that is okay. Because I have finally found the courage to be myself, to embrace my own identity, and to live my life authentically. And that, in itself, is a victory. As I stand here today, reflecting on my journey, I feel a deep sense of peace. It is a peace I never imagined I could find, and certainly not in the way I once thought it would come. My journey has been long, filled with challenges, moments of doubt, and a great deal of heartache, but it has also been a journey of growth, of learning to trust myself, and of learning to stand tall in the face of adversity. I want to share something with you, something I have learned from my experience. I have learned that we do not have to accept anything less than what we deserve. We do not have to bend ourselves into shapes we were never meant to fit, just to make others comfortable. We do not have to silence our voices or bury our dreams for fear of disappointing someone else. You are worthy. You are worthy of love, of respect, of happiness. You are worthy of a life that fills you with peace, not anxiety, joy, not fear. You are worthy of being seen for who you truly are, and not who others expect you to be. Do not let anyone, not even yourself, tell you that you are not enough. You are more than enough. You are powerful, capable, and deserving of everything that is good. It is okay to walk away from situations and people who do not value you. It is okay to choose yourself, even when it feels hard. It is okay to say no, to set boundaries, and to protect your peace. In fact, it is essential. As I look back on the pain I endured, I realize that it was never a sign of weakness. It was a part of my growth, my transformation. It was a test of my strength and my ability to rise after every fall, and now I see that it was all worth it, because in the end, I found myself. I found a woman who knows her worth, a woman who is not afraid to be herself, to speak her truth, and to live authentically. A woman who understands that her happiness does not depend on anyone else's approval, but on the choices she makes for herself. I want you to know that you, too, can find this peace. You can find this strength within yourself. You can walk away from the things that no longer serve you, and you can rebuild your life on your own terms. You can become the person you were always meant to be. Believe in yourself. Trust your journey. Embrace the woman you are becoming. You are enough, and you always have been. As I say goodbye to this chapter, I want you to remember one thing. You are worthy of the life you dream of. You are deserving of all the love, joy, and peace this world has to offer. And never let anyone, including yourself, convince you otherwise. Thank you for being a part of this story. Thank you for walking with me through the ups and downs, the struggles and triumphs. And as you continue your own journey, remember this: you are enough, just as you are.